Good morning, boys and girls. Happy Monday. I hope you had an amazing weekend and that you read lots of good books this weekend. I was reading a book on Saturday night and it was so good and I was so sleepy, but I just wanted to keep reading. I ended up falling asleep with the book on my face and I had to wake up and, move the book so I could go back to sleep. But I hope you found a book like that this weekend that you didn't want to put down and you just kept reading, reading, reading. So today we're going to continue to talk about characters. And as I was thinking about what I want us to really understand about our characters and what I want us to do with our characters, it actually reminded me of my friend who has a son named Evan. So when Evan was really little, he was a really good kid, like really sweet. But when he was like 2 years old, his mom was like, okay, Evan, don't step on the floor. I just mopped it. I just cleaned it. You need to stay off it for a little bit. So she leaves and she comes back and she sees that Evan is like putting his toe right over the floor, just wanting to touch it. And she was like, Evan, what are you doing? And her husband, John, who's really good at like reading people, he has really good people skills. He was like, Evan just wants his little victories. He just wants to do little things to feel like he's winning, right? So you're telling him not to do something. He just wants to feel like he's winning. She's like, okay. So as Evan got older, he was still a really good kid, still, for the most part, followed a lot of directions to go in school. But then one day he comes with a white stripe right down the middle of his head. And his mom, again, was like, Evan, what are you doing? And John, again, says, remember, this is just a little victory. He just wants to feel like he's doing something that's his choice and feels like a win for him. So John has what we call really good people skills. And so people skills are if you're really good at understanding what people want deep down and why they're doing what they're doing. Have you guys heard that before? People skills. Can you think about, do you have people skills or is there someone you know who you feel like is really good at understanding people? That's called people skills, or it's also called reading people. So today we're going to learn about not just reading people, but also reading characters. Because when we read people in life and in stories, we notice when they say or they do something that stands out, and we think, why might the character have acted this way? Or what do these actions show about the character? And readers especially notice patterns in characters, and when they do something again and again, and they think, what does this tell me about them? So when we're reading people, we're thinking about why they're doing what they're doing. So look at this girl in this picture. Her sister's friends have come over and she's gone to the back. And this is what she does every time. Her sister's friends come over and she goes away and she reads in her room. This reminds me of someone I know. And so I notice Zanib always goes to her room and reads when her older sister's friends come over, only when they come over. So maybe she's trying to avoid them for some reason. Maybe she has a bad experience with them. Maybe she's shy. I'm thinking about, why does Zanib do that? It's not just because she likes to read, but if every time her friends come over, she's like, takes a book and goes to her room, there's something about her friends that makes her uncomfortable. So again, your goal today is I want you to be able to notice when a character does something that stands out and think about why your character acts this way. So let's start with Rob from Tiger Rising, because we're going to practice in our book, Tiger Rising, and then I want you to later practice this in your own fiction book that you're reading. And so if we look at chapter 2, which you guys did an awesome job of acting out last week, let's look at Rob's actions and see what they tell us about Rob and see if we can build a really strong theory about Rob. So what did we know about Rob when we started reading chapter 2? What did we learn about him in chapter 1? Well, we knew that he hadn't cried since his mom died, right? And we also know that he puts all his feelings inside like a suitcase. So let's see. We're synthesizing. Remember, we're pulling previous information and we're saving it and we're thinking about it as we read. We're pulling from other parts of the story. So let's think about that his way of not thinking about things, and let's see if that lines up with what Rob is doing now. Okay. So let's read this passage now and let's see if it fits with what we already learned about Rob in chapter 1. Looky here, said Norton Threemonger as soon as Rob stepped into the school bus. It's the Kentucky Star. How's it feel to be a star? Norton stood in the center of the aisle, blocking Rob's path. Rob shrugged. Okay, let's stop here for a minute. It will be really easy just to focus on Norton's actions because he's this big character. He's teasing Rob. He's saying all these really interesting, kind of scary things. But Rob's actions are just as important. Norton says all these things to Rob, and all he does is he shrugs, right? It's not really much of an action, right? It's just a shrug. But what do you make of it? Rob shrugged. Oh, he don't know, Norton called to his brother. Hey, Billy, he don't know what it's like to be a star. Rob slipped past Norton. He walked all the way to the back of the bus and sat down in the last seat. Okay, let's stop and think. What do we already know about Rob? Well, the book hasn't really told us anything about him in this chapter. All they've really said is he shrugs and goes to the back of the bus. But wait, how a character responds in this situation tells us a lot about what they're like as a person. So maybe like me, you're thinking that the actions characters make, the way he moves to the back of the bus, the way he shrugs, is just here for a reason. So some people might think, oh, the back of the bus, like it's away from the bus driver. So maybe like they don't want the bus driver to see what they're doing. But I think it's interesting that Rob goes there, right? Why does he go back to the back of the bus? Do you see how even these littlest actions about the character, the way he shrugs or he goes to the very last seat, makes us think, right? Or makes us start wondering about that character? Like, I have other questions too. Like, why isn't he saying anything to Rob, right? What's going on? And that's a choice. Rob's choice to not yell at Rob's choice to not yell at Norton or tell the bus driver or to fight back, that says a lot about a character. Looking at what a character chooses not to do is just as important as what they choose to do. So, what do you think? Maybe it's like he's working hard, really hard to avoid any sort of conflict with Norton, right? So keep asking why. That's what I want you to do today. Keep asking, why does he do that? Why does he shrug? Well, he wants to avoid conflict with Norton. Well, why? Because he doesn't want to make a big scene on the bus? I don't know. But why? Maybe it's just easier to go through life not having to, react to anything. Let's see. So I wrote down, Rob has to be feeling something in these moments, right? When he slips to the back of the bus, when Norton gets in his face, but he acts like he's feeling nothing. Maybe this is because it's easier for him to feel nothing. Maybe it's easier to feel nothing than to feel all the other things that are going on in his head. So remember, what I did today. I looked at the characters' actions and I noticed patterns in their actions. And I thought, why? Why are they doing these things? And if there's a break from the pattern, if they do something different than what they did before, we also need to notice that and ask why. So are we seeing a pattern in Rob's actions? Notice I have my page number. Yeah, we are. So I was thinking about how I could organize my ideas and really think through analyzing my character. And we're going to fill out a chart like this one today. So on one side, I have actions, words, and thoughts of my character, which is my evidence from the text. And the other side, I have so what? What does this show you about the character? So one thing I wrote down under actions, remember, this is just evidence, what I see in the text. It says, Rob shrugs when Billy and Norton tease him. So I took a little action of the character and I thought, what does this tell me about him? So what? What does this show us about him? I think this shows that Rob is used to them teasing him on the bus. He knew they were going to be there, so he's prepared himself not to react. So it's like before he even got on the bus, he knew what was going to happen. So he shields himself when he gets on. That's why he just shrugs. Okay, so that's my so what. Now, another piece of evidence I wrote down is Rob walks all the way to the back of the bus, far away from the bus driver, page 5. And I thought, what does this show us about Rob, right? Why does he do this? So under my so what, I said, I think this shows that Rob wants to avoid any sort of conflict with Norton. Maybe he's afraid that talking about it will make it worse, right? Maybe he's afraid of any sort of emotion. So we're looking at the small actions of the character and then thinking, what does this tell us about them? Here's another example of a student who filled out this kind of chart to help them deepen their ideas about their character. So what does this make you think about a character? So when we grow ideas about a character, We use patterns and the character's actions to form ideas. What's something that they do again and again? We think, how do the characters' new actions fit with those or change those ideas? So how do the things they keep doing when you read a new chapter, do they line up with what they did before, or is it something new or different? And then you think about, why might the character act like this? You keep asking yourself why. So today what you're going to do on your own is you're going to read chapter 3 and you're going to think about some so what's for Sistine, and we're going to think about, why does she do what she does in this chapter. So you're going to read chapter 3, and you can see that I've already underlined some evidence for you, okay? And you're going to think about, what does this evidence show us about the character? All right? So you're going to take the evidence I underlined, okay, and write it under the evidence part of the chart. And on the other side, you're going to write, what does this show you about the character? So what does Sistine's small actions tell you about her as a person? And you're going to write down 2 examples. So your job today, write 2 ideas about Sistine. Use the evidence I underlined to help you fill out the chart. Then after you fill out the chart for Tiger Rising, you're going to practice with your own book. You're going to read your own book and take note of your character's actions. And your homework is going to be to write down this information about the characters. All right? So, happy reading. Good luck, and I can't wait to see your ideas.